So a recent trend in game used collecting is to collect bats that comprise the starting batting orders of particular teams, particularly teams that played in the World Series. So what I'd like to do today is make a video where I've assembled bats that comprise the starting lineup and starting players for the 2014 Giants team that played the game one of the 2014 World Series. Of course, that was a great game for Giants fans. The Giants won the game behind 7 strong innings pitched by Madison Bumgarner, and was a celebrated return to the World Series for the Giants after 2 years after winning their previous World Series championship in 2012. And the 2014 Giants offense may have actually been their best offense of the 3 World Series winning teams. So it's kind of fun to collect the bats from that team. There are so many bats, or so many players from that team that will go down in Giants history as just total classic players. The Killer Peas, for instance, Posey, Pablo, Pence, and Panik. All of them were at the top of their game during the 2014 World Series and had timely hitting and contributed to the victories in those games. So some of these bats I've featured before in previous videos, but where possible I tried to substitute bats for these players that I haven't used before. So here we go. Game 1, 2014 World Series starting lineup. Batting first and leading off was Gregor Blanco, who played center field for the Giants that year. He was actually filling in very capably for Angel Pagan, who had been hurt in September and couldn't play in the postseason. I've shown this bat before. It's the bat where Gregor Blanco used in both Games 1 and Game 2 of the World Series. And in the 2014 World Series, he used this bat to hit a home run in Game 2. And he also used this bat to hit the very first hit of the 2014 World Series when he got a single to lead off Game 1 of the World Series. So it's apt to begin the discussion with this particular bat. Then batting second and playing second base was Joe Panik, and a sentimental favorite of mine. Obviously he fizzled out too young and declined, but when he was in his prime, which lasted all of about 2.5 years, he was one of the better second basemen who ever played for the Giants, and has quite a Giants legacy, particularly with his postseason play in 2014 and his flip double play in Game 7. This particular bat was sold to me on the Facebook Game Used website, and the seller of this bat said that he was able to photo match this bat to 57 at-bats from Joe Panik in 2015. So this is a 2015 bat. That was his all-star season. That was probably his best regular season as a Giant and in his career. And he said because of this scar seen on the barrel of the bat, he was able to photo match it to 12 games and 57 total at-bats. And the highlight of usage was when Joe Panik hit his career 8th home run using this bat. And in the video footage, apparently the footage was famous for one of the fans. I guess Joe Panik hit the ball into the water, into McCovey Cove, and one of the fans dove off of the porch behind AT&T Park and dove into the water to try to retrieve the ball. This is my only Joe Panik bat, and obviously he's not one of the players who will be remembered for his offensive exploits. But if you were to own a Joe Panik bat, this would be one of the ones that I would want to own. Just given how much usage it has. It is just completely pounded with all these ink transfers on the label side, which is typical for a left-hander. Those are left-handed marks, and Joe Panik was obviously a left-hander. And to have been used so heavily and to be used in one of Joe Panik's very few career home runs. I think he only had something like 36 career home runs as a Giant, and then 2 more as a Met. So very hard to get a Joe Panik home run bat, so I was very happy to get this one. Batting third and playing catcher was Buster Posey. I've shown this bat before. I've shown all my Posey bats before. This one is a 2014 bat that was used in September of 2014 and was used for I think something like 7 games. And he batted something like 360 using this bat, and in fact hit career home run 82. I won't spend too much time with this bat except to say that it was used in the heat of the pennant race, and for that reason appealed to me, since using this bat he helped propel the Giants into the postseason in 2014. The next bat, batting fourth, batting cleanup actually for the Giants, is third baseman Pablo Sandoval. And this bat is a 2014 bat, authenticated to, I think, June 9th, 2014, and authenticated to, I guess he fouled off a pitch from Steven Strasburg of the Washington Nationals and broke the bat.
Sandoval breaks his bat.
And unfortunately, there's not a great story to tell with this bat. He didn't really do anything special with it that I know of. I tried to photo match it to other stuff, but really couldn't find anything interesting. But it does display a lot of the usage characteristics for Pablo. He always has very colorful bats, always has tons of pine tar, very colorful lizard tape, knob, always has some flamboyant knob color, and his Congo de Africa sticker underneath the Tucci Lumber label. So a typical Pablo bat. I guess the one story I can tell about this bat is I bought it after he had signed with the Red Sox in 2015, and of course during that time he gave a middle finger to the Giants and all their fans, and said that he pretty much expressed how much he hated playing for the Giants and how they limited his weight, and the only guys he really liked were Bochy and Pence. And so even though when he was at his peak, these bats, Pablo bats in like 2012, sold for upwards of $500, $600, $700. When he left the team in such a distasteful fashion, the price of his bats fell, and I was able to pick this one up for I think $130 off of eBay at a steep discount to what they had been selling. Just kind of goes to show the cycle of prices that modern day bats go through. You can, if you wait for the players to decline or sign with someone else, or otherwise make themselves distasteful to fans, you can get bats at just a fraction of the price they sold at when the player was at their peak. Of course, when Pablo came back to the Giants in 2017 and sort of reinvigorated his reputation with the fans, his bats went back up in price, and now they regularly sell for in the $300 range by the Giants. So just if anything else, and it illustrates the price cycle of a modern era bat. And one last thing, it is from a championship season from 2014, so for that reason alone, that makes this bat a little special compared to his more recent bats from 2018 and 2019, when the Giants were not very good. So at any rate, I always enjoy bats from championship seasons more than pine tar on my fingers. Just goes to show you how dirty this bat is. Okay, so the next bat, batting fifth, is the right fielder Hunter Pence, a Giants favorite. And this bat is cool, even though it's from 2017. Not a great year for the Giants. I think they finished last place and got the second draft pick in the following season. And even though Hunter Pence had markedly declined by that point, this is kind of a cool bat because it is a home run bat. I was able to photo match this to his career home run number 213. As I talked about before, very difficult to find home run bats as they are not authenticated to home runs, but you have to go and sort of do the research yourself to find out which ones were used for home runs. This was used on July 4th, 2017, and you can see he used the Stars and Stripes red, white, and blue lizard tape. At any rate, Hunter Pence is one of my favorites, and a real pleasure to own a home run bat from him. So batting sixth is first baseman Brandon Belt, and everybody knows about the Belt Wars. You either love him or you hate him. He always has a great WAR, but when you watch him in person with his slumpy shoulders and taking strike three all the time, it's easy to hate him. Either way, he was definitely part of the Giants championship era, winning titles in 2012 and 2014. So I'm happy to have a bat of his. And this one I was able to photo match it to career home run number 115. And for that reason, even though I don't collect a lot of Belt stuff, I want this bat. I was trying to collect home run bats from all the Giants starters from 2014. Although I'll explain why that's going to be impossible to fulfill that in just a moment. At any rate, this is a bat from 2019, and again, unfortunately not one of the great years for the Giants or for Brandon Belt. He was in steep decline by the 2019 season, and even the people who steadfastly supported him in the Belt Wars started falling away when they watched him strike out a ton with men on base during the 2019 season. Nonetheless, I purchased it because of the photo match to the home run. Obviously, I'd rather have bats from better years when the Giants were in their prime and when these players were in their prime, but the home run was too much to pass up. And likewise, because the Giants were so bad in the 2019 season, the Giants had tons of inventory left at the end of their season, and at the end of season sale, they dumped a lot of this stuff at pretty reasonable prices, and I was able to pick up this bat at the end of the season for a pretty reduced price. It wasn't authenticated to the home run, but I was able to photo match it to that before I bought it. So that's the story behind this Belt bat. The next bat is one of my favorites. Michael Morse, 2017 bat, I should say batting seventh and playing designated hitter is Michael Morse. Morse is one of my favorite Giants of all time. Just a really likable guy, a huge guy with a huge bat. He did so many great things for the Giants in the postseason in 2014 and during the regular season as well. He hit dramatic home run in the clinching NLCS Game 5 to tie the game in the 8th inning. I was there at that game, and it was just crazy when he hit the home run. Everyone in the stadium went crazy. And of course, he drove in the game-winning run in Game 7 of the 2014 World Series. One of the things memorable about that 2014 NLCS home run was his exit out of the box with both arms raised and running around the bases, just jumping up for joy, pumping his fists, a huge smile on his face, really an expressive character. And what I love about this bat was that I was able to photo match it to career home run number 105 in 2017. It was a similar situation, I think the 7th or 8th inning, and the Giants were down a run, and he hit the home run and he tied the game. And his exit out of the box was identical to the way he raised his hands up in the NLCS Game 5, and he cruised around the bases, pumping his fists. It was such an echo of that great moment in 2014. It turned out that would be his last career home run, although he never would have known it at the time. A few games later, during the Bryce Harper brawl of Memorial Day, 2017, he came running toward the mound and bumped heads with Jeff Samardzija, suffered a career-ending concussion and never played again. But this was the bat that he used to wield to hit his final career home run. It's got all the classic Morse characteristics. It's got all the heavy pine tar around the label and heavy pine tar around the handle. Huge bat. It's the same exact specifications as this Bumgarner bat that I'll talk about later, as Bumgarner wielded Michael Morse bats in 2014 and decided to basically co-opt the bat from him for the rest of his career. Just a wonderful bat, and one of my favorites. Okay, batting eighth. Speaking of that NLCS Game 5 2014 clinch game, left fielder Travis Ishikawa. And of course, he will forever be known for his Game 5 clinching 3-run home run, where the Giants walked off with a pennant. One inning after Morse hit his, so it's sort of fitting that the Morse and Ishikawa bats are sitting right next to each other. This is one of my recent purchases, and one of my favorite recent purchases. It's from 2010, and I was able to photo match this to a game in early July 2010 where Ishikawa broke the bat. He didn't do anything that spectacular with the bat. He got a bunch of hits with it, but nothing particularly special. But nonetheless, Ishikawa only played for the Giants for part of maybe 3 total seasons, and each season he was not a regular, and so it's really hard to find a Travis Ishikawa Giants bat. I've looked for years, and there's one when I first started collecting that I passed on and regretted it forever, and then lo and behold, 3 years later, I was able to get this one, and I'm just delighted, like washing away all the regret I had over not buying the one from several years ago. And who knew? He's sort of a journeyman player. Who knew that I would have so much affection for this player and for this player's bat? Just for him playing left field for the Giants in the World Series in 2014 was such a miracle, as he had apparently been out on his boat without a job after being released by the Padres, or whoever he played with in 2014, and was thinking about what next to do with his life when I think Larry Baer or Brian Sabean called him and asked him if he wanted a job with the Giants, and there he was hitting the walk-off home run, pennant-winning walk-off home run in the 2014 NLCS. Just a great story. An Asian guy playing Major League Baseball. Very, very seldom do you see Asian American guys, I should say, not just Asian, but Asian American. Even though this bat isn't really worth a whole lot of money, it's also one of my favorites, just a total sentimental favorite. Okay, batting ninth, shortstop Brandon Crawford. What more can I say about Crawford? He is a probable San Francisco franchise best shortstop for the Giants. Had huge roles in both the 2012 and 2014 pennant-winning teams. And unfortunately, this is a bat from 2019, so again, the same story, 15th verse. Brandon Crawford was in steep decline in 2019, and the Giants just really sucked in 2019. So not the ideal bat to collect, but I did photo match this before I bought it to, I think it's Brandon Crawford's career home run number 108. Don't quote me on that. So it is another home run bat, and that's the reason I bought it. Also, as I was talking about the end of season inventory that built up since people sort of stopped collecting Giants game used memorabilia once they got so bad and all their star players declined, I was able to get this at a steep discount at the Giants end of year sale. Also, it wasn't again authenticated to the home run, but I was able to photo match it before I bought it to the home run. And so of the 10 starting players from World Series Game 1 from 2014, I have 8 of those bats are home run bats. So something that was kind of fun for me to collect. The reason why that I'll never be able to make it a whole entire set of home run bats is because of Travis Ishikawa. He barely hit any home runs And it's so hard to find one of his bats anyway, so I'll never find a Travis Ishikawa home run bat. Pablo Sandoval, the other bat that's not a home run bat, I think eventually I'll be able to find one. Those are probably not too hard to get, but Ishikawa is going to be impossible. But at any rate, this was purchased for the home run so that I could add it to my Giants starting player home run collection. And then that's the end of the batting order, but starting on the mound, starting pitcher in Game 1 was Madison Bumgarner. And I do have a home run bat from Bumgarner that I showed off on a different video. So I chose a different bat to show in this video. This is not a home run bat. This is from the 2016 season and was cracked. I believe he hit a single using this bat and cracked the bat on the single. That's what it was authenticated to, off of Carlos Villanueva from San Diego. It was dated May 17, 2016. And the thing about pitchers' bats is they're really hard to get. If you think about it, a general position player might get 30 or 40 bats authenticated during a season. Pitchers play in 1/5 of those games, and even in the games they play, they may only get 2 or 3 or sometimes even 1 at bat per game. The Giants told me that Bumgarner bats are especially hard to get because he keeps a lot of them because he has sentimental value for the ones that he does things like hits home runs with. He famously hit 2 home runs on opening day of 2017. And the Hall of Fame wanted that bat for their collection and asked him for it, and he said, "No, I'm not giving that bat away." So he kept that bat and gave them his helmet instead. So I was told that in 2017, in fact, the Giants only sold 1 bat from Madison Bumgarner that was authenticated. In 2016, they said they sold about 5. So, really a single-digit production for these MLB authenticated pitchers' bats. Compared to 30 or 40 for a regular position player. So these are really hard to get, which is why I bought so many of them, even the ones that didn't really have a great story. Like this bat doesn't have a great Bumgarner story that's associated with it, but I bought it anyway just because I love his bats. They're huge. He is just a legend at the plate. Has hit, I think, like 19 career home runs with the Giants. Really legendary for his exploits at the plate and for how hard he works at hitting. I know hitting means a lot to him. So for that reason, and because they're rare, I just tried to scoop up these Bumgarner bats when I could. I probably have enough of them now. Probably not really looking for any more, but I found these are really, really hard to find and really special bats, even the ones where he didn't really do anything impressive with them. So at any rate, that is the starting lineup for the Giants in 2014 Game 1 of the World Series, and really tried to collect bats that tell some kind of story or that are significant for some other reason. And in the future I'll make one for the 2012 Giants World Series team as well as the 2010 Giants World Series team, but for now that's the 2014 team.